Good evening and welcome to the overnight edition of From Day One. We're about ready to head off into Dominion. We'll return to October 15th, 2013, where Art Bell was interviewing his individual on alien abductions. And we were just talking about why him.
They genetically track family lines for thousands of years, and these things kept coming out one at a time. It went back to the Roman period, and it went back, even BC. I mean, well before that. So one after the other, and that was their answer. So I got an answer to why me, which is a remarkable thing because now.
Okay, so the answer was, if I've got it straight, Jim, that it was you because you are simply the current one in the long line that they've been following in your lineage, yes?
That's exactly it.
Okay, hold on where you are. We're going to do a break here, a quick break, and we'll be right back. Jim Sparks.
And we should return to audio in just a few seconds. This again was Dark Matter, October 15th, 2013. His show on Sirius XM.
From the Kingdom of, this is Dark Matter with Art Bell, exclusively on Sirius XM Radio. And now, here's Art.
I love this song. I absolutely love this song. You can actually listen to the words.
What a wonderful... No, we don't need to have a copyright restriction.
All right. Yeah, we've got a rough phone connection with Jim Sparks, really rough, and it's begun to sort of get a little digital in nature. He's on a landline phone, so I'm not sure what we're facing here, but we'll attempt a reconnect in the next break, see if we can improve things. Yeah, a little rough, Jim. You're starting to break up every now and then, but please let us continue and see how we do.
Okay. And anyway, as it went on, that there was the thing where I just left off with you, and they actually were starting to answer questions, and that's the lineage and family. So I was feeling better about myself there, and I had just a better attitude about them. But then the next time I got abducted, it even got better. And or I got pulled, it even got better than that, because now I'm on board, and now for the first time ever, I'm standing up. I'm not paralyzed anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm standing where there's this, the table. There's this the table that I used to see, the bench. I could see the bench. I could see the table screen. I had complete movement in my body. I was in this room. No one was there. And I said to myself, I can't believe it. I can touch myself, I can move around, and, they have me completely mobile. What do I do? And so I took a chance, and I started to walk around. So it's the first time I ever walked around on board. And no one was in the room, and I walked down this corridor, and it was small, I guess, for their size. And as I walked down a corridor, it was... dimly lit and then lit, light again radiating from everywhere, so there's not a light bulb per se. And there was an opening to my right, and when I went to the right, I looked into the room, and I got frightened to death. Basically because there were they looked like beings. I didn't know what they were. They were laying on their back. They were staring into the ceiling. And with their eyes open, and they weren't moving, and they were laying on these gurneys, and there were dozens of them like that. And so I panicked, and I started yelling, I started screaming, they're dead, and I just couldn't relate to that in any way, shape, or form. And so I was in a complete panic mode, and one of them came in from behind. I could sense his presence, and he blacked me out. So what this is leading to was the fact that they were actually showing me some of the things they do, some of their handiwork, which leads to a whole other area, as I later learned. You may be aware, Art, back in the mid 90s, early to mid 90s, there was a campaign where you heard about making hybrid humans and all this kind of stuff was going on, where they were.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Well, I later learned what the purpose of that was, and it's as gruesome as this is going to sound, is that they do take the material from men and women to work on things and to create, an insurance policy, so to speak. And these are some of the things that are going to be hard, to digest, but, they see that we as humans are caught in this vicious cycle where we start off basically as a primeval era, where basically we're tribal people and villages and such, and then as hundreds or thousands of years go by, we civilize, and then we create, we have our technology, and then we're at the brink of, self-destruction. And this is something they seem to know about our nature. So there was a campaign in those years to put together, in case we did self-destruct.
Well, apparently they've been watching our Congress here in the U.S.
Well, they created, they worked on creating a better human being. So in case we did self-destruct, it would be one that's more intelligent, more environmentally concerned. And
well,
in case
let's elect one of them.
Ourselves to pieces, But, with that being said, I was seeing part of that process, but, it made me scared to death. And I, they had to black me out but it was the beginning stages of letting me walk around. And, then I'm going to go into a period where I just kind of failed miserably, for them to, for me to adapt to what they are. And I came out of it, in another abduction experience, or I got pulled again. And when I got pulled this time, it was, again, I was able to move around. I was on a gurney. They were doing a procedure with a test, and I was laying there. And then they asked me to get up off the gurney and walk over to another one. Now I had the freedom to walk to that. There was a human extraction where usually what I'm seeing during those times, and this is the stuff that was just went hand along with this, was periodically that's what they would do. And the way they would do it was to create images of something pleasant. And meaning that, like this story I like to tell because it was a breaking story in a sense where this was happening, where I was pulled, I was laying on a gurney, and to my left were two very attractive women, but they weren't real, but they were made to look real. And one of them was talking very nice to me, and the other one was touching my hair, at least in my mind they were, and saying, "Why isn't he handsome?" And, as soon as they said that, I'm thinking, I don't know these women, and I shake my head around, and everything is blanked out, and what I can see in front of me was exactly what they were doing, which was they had an instrument on my groin, and there was one in the middle holding it in place, and then there was two on the right and the left, and I panicked, and I kicked them, the one in the middle. And I actually physically kicked him, and he went into the back of the wall. So he went backwards and hit a wall back there. He lunged up, he came up forward, started coming at me, and I'm laying in the gurney, I'm scared to death, what is he going to do? And he put his face right within an inch of my face and stopped right there. And those big eyes were looking in my eyes, and he had 100 thoughts. He raced into my mind in just a matter of a second. Meaning that if I slowed him down, why did you kick me? You shouldn't have kicked me. You know it's dangerous to kick me. You can get hurt. I can get hurt. This and this and that. And then I blacked out. So, with that being said, I found myself back home, and I wasn't very happy with things. I'm thinking, what's going to happen next? They gave me some freedom to go around on board. They're showing me some of the things we're conducting, and I panicked. They gave me some freedom to, as far as what they're doing, and that's some of the agenda they were up to at the time. And I kicked one of them, and I didn't mean to. And so for several months afterwards, I didn't get abducted again. That was the end of it. And I thought to myself, well, that's it.
All right. During the time that you were being abducted, was this occurring? Michelle, who can send me a message on my computer through something called the wormhole at my website, artbell.com, asks if you were being abducted every night. Was this occurring nightly, or every other night, or once a week, or how often?
In the first 18 months, it could happen 2 or 3 times a week for several months in a row. There might be a couple of weeks that it wouldn't happen, a week or two, and it was 2 or 3 times a week, and it was mostly at night, definitely, in the first 18 months.
All right. So now you kicked one, and they don't want anything to do with you for a while, huh?
That's what I'm figuring, and it gave me a lot of time to think about it. That I failed miserably in a sense, because now after 6 years of being paralyzed, I'm able to move around, and I made trouble. And so several months go by, and then something spectacular happened, which again, these things have changed the sequence of events that were just phenomenal. And so after several months, I got pulled again, and I was standing in this room, and where I always was, again, I was not paralyzed. I was by myself at first, and my right hand was leaning up against the table. That's how I found myself after I got pulled and came to. I was completely mobile, standing there, and thinking, all right, I'm back. Okay, what are they going to do now? I had no clue. And 2 of them came walking through a corridor, and one of them had a black box in his hand. And I was a little bit frightened, looking at the black box, not knowing what it was. It was about the size of a shoebox, only it was perfectly square. It was absorbent black. And they walked forward. As they walked towards me, he put it on the table, which was at the table screen that I described earlier, and he pushed it towards me. And I could see those weird bony fingers pushing it towards me on the table. And then, I said, what's this? What are you giving me? What do you want me to do with it? What is that? And they said, do with it as you will. Those are the exact words. And they turned around, and they headed down to the end of the room into the corridor. So now here I am by myself, again, in this room, and here's this black box sitting on this table. And I'm afraid of it. I don't know what it is. I have some fear running through me. So I walk around it and looking at it. I get close, and I take my finger. I'm afraid to touch it. And I touch it with my finger. And it didn't hurt me. And so I started moving it around on the table. And I tried to pick it up. Let me pick it up. It's not going to hurt me. And now I've got this box in my hand, and, I don't know what it is. And then a telepathic voice says, it's the one that said, do with it as you will again. And so now I've got the box in my hand, and I decide, okay, well, let me see if I can open it. So I start pulling from one side, turned it around, pulled it from another side, and then I gripped it really hard, and I was pulling with all my strength. It wouldn't open. And then I took it and I put it on the floor, and I wedged it between my legs, and then I was trying to open it that way. And then I took it. I took it with my right hand. I lifted it over my head because I was about to smash it on the table to try to get it open, as clot as I was going to get into it, because I couldn't open it. And just before I started to slam it into the table, the telepathic voice said, he didn't try to open it gently. Yeah, all right, And so I put it in front of me, and I put my hand on top of the box, and I gently, a little bit of pressure, and it opened up. And this horrific stench They're like the worst smelling stuff that you can imagine. And inside was the black tarry substance with something looking like test tubes in it that I couldn't make any sense out of it. And then the telepathic voice says, "It's a gift. It's a gift for you." And then I screamed out, "What the hell kind of gift is this? What is this nasty thing? It's a gift." "Yeah, yes, it's a gift. We extracted it from your lungs." Well, at the time, yes. At the time, I was a heavy cigarette smoker.
So this was all the residual tar, nicotine-laced mess that had been in your lungs was now in this box in your hand. Wonderful.
Yes. And so now again, as you can see, you know, they're changing. I'm changing. I just went, oh, okay, that's fantastic. I didn't know if I wanted to believe it or not, but you know, quite frankly, at 10, 15, I mean, right after that, I felt better. I could breathe better. There was no doubt about it. You know, that's something that they did. So I was convinced that they did it, and that was real.
Right.
And so, you know, all of these things were leading to something that was fantastic now. And this is when I got involved in my mass abduction. And not knowing it was going to be a mass abduction. And one particular evening, I got pulled. And I found myself in a field. And it was a clearing in the field. And meaning it was about the size of a football field. And so there were trees all the way around, but the trees seemed to have been cleared. And I was standing up, and I didn't know what was going to take place next. And below me was people scattered all over the ground, grouped up. I'd say there's about 15 people, and they were paralyzed. Some of them could move slightly. They were sprawled all over the ground. They were in their night clothes, nightgowns. Some were partially nude, as if, you know, they got abducted and dumped in this field in the middle of the night from, you know, after going to bed. And then there was a gray standing a few feet next to me to my right. And then to my left was another, about another 10 feet away was another group of people sprawled all over the ground, and another gray, and then there was tree piles, about 12 or 15 of us. Now, I don't know what's going on. I don't know why I'm here. And
no, but these were other human beings. So did you run to any of them to check them to see if they're alive, moving, scared to death, what their situation was, or what?
Yeah, exactly. There was some of them were moaning. There was this one particular girl, woman. She had blonde hair. She was in the fetal position, and she was rocking back and forth, so she was able to do that, and she was crying. She was scared. And then this telepathic voice from the alien said, "Calm her." And the first thing that came to my mind was, what is it? I got a job? What, are you giving me a job here? I got
Sounds like it, yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I wrote this again. A lot of these things are in much more detail, and you know, I guess it's a plug for the keepers of the book. But you know, they can go on to jim-sparks.com, and I put a lot more detail in between. You know, from here to where we are. And I created all of this from memory, and I did it for that reason. But anyway,
all right, Jim, hold on. Well, we're going to take a break, and during the break, we're going to try a reconnection to you and see if we can get rid of some of this digital mess that we've got. So that's what we're going to do right now. He's all the way down in Australia. It makes it a little difficult when the audio is breaking up, but I'm sort of hanging in there. This is one whale of a story. You're listening to Dark Matter. In the nighttime, raging forward. Once again, Jim Sparks from Australia. Jim?
Yes.
You know, I guess I would like to ask you, because I haven't, what made you move all the way to Australia?
Well, it's business. I came here, I travel back and forth for business, so I'm still based in the United States, American citizen, but I work in Australia quite a bit. So I spent several months here, and then I'm back home for a while, and then I'm here. So that's basically business.
All right, so I just happened to catch you at a moment that you were down under.
That's it.
All right. You were in a ship, Jim, obviously, all these incidences of abduction. You were in an alien ship, so I have a few questions for you. Number one, if you're able to describe the ship in any detail. Number two, was there a window? Were you ever able to look out? And if so, did you ever see anything you recognized?
Well, actually, on board, there were no windows, and I could not look out.
Okay. All right. What you described the screen wall. Are there any other parts of the ship you got to that you can describe?
Well, from the actually there is because on the mass abduction, the way it was laid out was amazing actually, and that's what I was going into now. And if I may, I can continue where I left off, and that'll describe pretty much what was the interior of a craft.
All right. Well, you said that it was almost like in a field or something. Is that kind of like something they produced? In other words, this field, this place where these abductees were laying all over the ground. Was it something like in Star Trek that they produced for you?
Well, actually, it was a place, and it was a real place, and it was definitely real. They had cleared the woods for this particular experience. It was an overcast night, and I even got a basic idea, I believe, where it was, which was somewhere just south of Orlando, Florida, and northeast of Tampa. And the reason I surmised that, because it was a completely overcast evening when I was there. And the next day when that experience was over, at the time I was a big fan of the Weather Channel, back there at that time anyway. And so I went onto the Weather Channel to see if I can figure out, where it was overcast in the United States, because I could tell by the trees that they were pine trees, so I knew I was in the southern United States. And I knew I was at North Florida and the Panhandle. The pine trees turned into a different species, and then and southern Florida and central Florida, they're distinctly different. And these are the trees that I could relate to in that part of Florida, so that was a clue. And also, when I looked at the Weather Channel, it happened to be the time of year where we had a big cold front coming through, that rocketed the United States. And it pushed the clouds all the way up into just south of Orlando. And then, basically from the central United States all the way up, was clear. And then that was the area that was overcast and that kind of weather. So I figured it to be in that proximity over there.
Okay, gotcha.
And so going into the interior, which is about to take place, and that girl, and these were things that were taking place that were beyond my comprehension, and yet I was starting to get an understanding of things, and I was starting to feel a little better about what was going on, because I didn't realize that actually they have an agenda. The agenda is it's a positive one for us, and if we follow it, there's a way for the human species to evolve. And at the time I was clueless. It just took all these years, to bring us up to these things. And, it took time for me to get comfortable with these people or these beings. So, anyway, there were things that, led up to that moment, and on the beach, and anyway, led up to that place, and there was something that, happened that brought me there. And these are a sequence of events. And when when the girl was sitting there, and she was in a panic stage, and they said to me, calm her, then as I was saying earlier, I felt, a freedom to do something about it. But there were things that led up to this point. Things that led up to the point to give me the freedom that I wanted. So with that in mind, they said, "Come her." So I went up to this girl and I put my hand on her shoulder and I said, "You don't have nothing to be afraid about. You're going to be okay. Nothing's going to hurt you. They're going to take you on board. They're going to teach you this alphabet." And then the telepathic voice from the alien says, "You're telling her too much. Just calm her." And so then there was a guy. There was one man that was standing up, and he was standing up next to me, and he was the only one that was standing there. And this is a person that all these abductions that I later on saw when I got back home, because of all the people, I did have abductions where I could see people on other people instead of being trapped into that room, and that's where this is moving to. But that one particular person I did get to see back home, and it was interesting how that turned out, and I can talk a little bit about him as I go into this part of it. And so I calmed her, and this guy that was standing up, which I didn't mention earlier, he was the only one that was standing, and he was Dave. He was saying, "I was driving in my car. I was driving in my car. I was driving in my car." So he had got abducted, and he was riding along in his vehicle. So you can imagine how he was feeling. Yeah. And so
he was riding, Jim, or he was driving.
He was driving. According to him, I was driving my car, and here he is there. And so the telepathic voice said, "Calm him." And so I went up to him and said, "Look, you're going to be okay. You're going to be fine." And I said, "Don't worry about it. You're going to, I just was saying soothing words to this person. And then and here he is there. And so the telepathic voice said, "Calm him." And so I went up to him and said, "Look, you're going to be okay. You're going to be fine." And I said, "Don't worry about it. You're going to, I just was saying soothing words to this person. And then to the left.
Probably should have asked him if he had good insurance.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, maybe they had him pulled over, but that's his last memory. And then here he is there. Then the people who were on the ground started moaning, the ships. And I looked over to my left, and I could see 3 balls of light in the horizon. And I guess the best way I can describe them was the fact that it was an overcast night at the time, was when car dealers or any kind of thing was advertising, and they use those million candle light searchlights, to
right. Sure.
And and it kind of looked like that. There was 3 balls of light, and one of them just hauled over from the horizon right on top of my group of people, and to the left, it was still behind the clouds. It was overcast. The other one, they went right in succession to the next group of people, and then another one came to the third group of people, and they were hovering above each 3 groups. And I was the one in the first group, so I was looking up at the sky, and I saw the ball of light, and it started to descend. And as it broke through the clouds, I saw one of the. It was just the most spectacular sight that I ever saw in my life. And my heart was racing. I had joy inside me. I was elated by this thing because of everything that I had been going through and all this negative stuff that was progressing. I'm now seeing the exterior of a craft. And as it started lowering, I'm looking up at it, and it was spherical shaped. It had like a dome underneath the bottom. There were windows all around the dome. And then there was a dome on top of it. And as it kept coming down, I could see through the windows grays going back and forth as if they were looking down out through a window, as if they're checking it out down there. And I could see what I thought were people, humans, at the time, I know that they are people behind these windows, and they would look down too. And then to my left, the other craft that started descending over that group of people, and then the next group further to my left, it started descending down in perfect sequence. And I just stepped out in front of those people, and I kept walking forward towards it with my hands up in the air because this light came out of it, and it was a bright light that hit the ground, a beam of light, a very white beam of light. It was a bright white with a hue of blue. And I was looking up, and I could still see the craft. It was bright enough, and I was yelling out, "It's beautiful! It's beautiful! It's beautiful!" And then to my left, and a beam of light came over that group of people, and to the next one down, it came over that group of people. And I started yelling out, "They're beautiful! They're beautiful!" And bam, I blacked out.
Well, maybe they didn't like your voice.
Well, I guess it was, when I came to, because when I came to, I was standing on my feet, and I was in this huge corridor, and that group of people that were all sprawled over the ground were standing up, and I was in front of the group, and they were standing there. They kind of was like zombies, basically, but they weren't paralyzed. They were just standing there. They weren't saying anything. And here it is, a corridor, and it's craft, inside this craft. And the next thing, the telepathic voice said, "Lead them." And so, in my mind, I knew it meant that to walk forward. And as I took a step, they took a step. Now, this guy that I was talking about, he was next to me, the one I later saw again in real life down here, I should say. And anyway, and lead them. And so as I walked forward, they walked forward. I kind of played around a little bit and stopped, and they stopped. And then this corridor opened up into this room inside this ship, about the size of a basketball court. And it was just huge. And all I could see was rows. What I could see at that point was rows and rows and rows and rows of something that looked like monitors, like a bench, a workbench, and a monitor in front of it, some monitor that we didn't use. And the next, and then at the end of the back wall, there was all this activity going on. I could see grays going back and forth. I could see human beings and normal everyday clothes working with them. And this whole thing was just like riveting. I didn't understand what this was going to happen or what was going to go on next, as you can well imagine. But this was a mass abduction, and this was the beginning of a mass abduction. And at this point, I was still clueless as to what are they going to do with us. I had no idea. And so the next instructions to me were seat them. And so I took the person that was right next to me, and I walked forward and walked next to him, and he followed me. And I walked about to the middle of one of those lines of monitors on an aisle. And I stopped, and I was looking around to want to see more. And the telepathic voice goes, "No, like, don't do that." And, because I was supposed to see them to the end, and I didn't want to, I still kept looking. I kept looking. I saw people. I saw grays. And then the voice said, "No," real loud in my head, and it said, "No," again, and then I blacked out. So
I want to ask a quick question, Jim, if I might. Bill in Defiance, Ohio is asking, and I'm asking too. At this point, you're cooperating with these aliens. And I wonder if you're doing it because you have resolved in your mind that what's happening is a good thing and you should be doing it, or whether you have essentially joined others who have been affected by the Stockholm Syndrome, where you just sort of eventually melt into their culture.
Well, I would have to argue the Stockholm Syndrome, because what it turns out to be with that is your mind is always free. You have a choice. You can do what you want. I've never felt led to do anywhere but that. And what I learned over the years, and it took years to learn it, is that you just can't invite them to your home, or they can't just land on the White House lawn and say we're here. And you can't necessarily invite them to your home and have a cup of coffee and say, tell us what you're all about, because they just don't relate that way. And that's what's hard to swallow. And this is something that took years. And, as I was saying in the beginning, what makes it difficult for us is because the way they are. They're just not human beings. They're extremely intelligent. They're extremely advanced. They don't associate. They don't socialize the same way. They're just not that. I wish I could say they socialize like us. They have no emotions, but I later learned that they have a long view of emotions, and you would think they didn't have any. And as time went on, I learned that they do have feelings, but they don't express it necessarily like we do. And so it's just very difficult to be with them. So these things are necessary, for me to get there. So, no, I never felt like now my captives, these are my captives, and there's the syndrome going on. So I was elated by what was going on there. I was a little stubborn, I guess a little bit out of order, because, I was asked to do something and participate instead of being this. And this is what this led to, which was, pretty fantastic. Because I did black out, because when I blacked out, I came to, and then I realized when I got conscious again that I was sitting in front of one of these monitors, and I looked around, and there were literally over 1,000 people seated in this room. 1,000 is a mass abduction. And we were all seated in front of these monitors.
Well, Jim, it almost sounds like when you are of assistance to them willingly, and you do help them, they let you go. When you either kick them or object in some way to what they're doing or don't follow directions, you black out.
So yeah, for whatever reasons that they have me black out that way, but in this case, when I was looking around, I could see thousands of people. I mean, to me, there was anywhere between 1,100, 1,200 people in this room, and what was going to happen next, I wasn't sure. And all of a sudden, all these monitors lit up at the same time. And it looked like a demonstration of when you're selling televisions, TV sets, television sets, at night, in front of a glass plate window for the store, bam, they all went on at the same time.
Right.
And so I'm looking at mine, and the first image, now there's an image that comes onto the screen. You're somehow, your emotions are charged up, as you might imagine, but you're not afraid. And you're sitting in front of this monitor, and it lights up, and it's the first thing I see. And everybody's seeing the exact same thing at the exact same time. And again, it's a mass abduction scenario. And it's a perfect picture view of the ocean, the earth, in perfect, pristine condition. From a time period before we messed up the oceans, I would take it. The water was just beautiful blue and a turquoise. The sky was crystal clear, and it just absolutely took your breath away. And that's what you hear people, they're going, oh man, that's beautiful, that's beautiful.
Right.
And you can imagine that kind of reaction with 1,000 people or more in one room like that, emotionally overwhelmed. So how they charged us up to feel it more, in which we did. And then then you heard a hum, and it fades away. And then there's another view comes up on this screen, and it's the beautiful wood scene with a lake. And again, the air is clear, the trees are healthy, and then you hear a hum, and then another scene comes up, and then this scene is a mountain scene with snow on the top, beautiful snow, and just one beautiful scene after the other. And there was that humming sound, and then it would come on, and it would go away. And then they slowly started turning ugly. And the beautiful, the next scene that comes up, which was the beautiful ocean, the pristine ocean, now it's gray. There's bloated fish floating on the top of it. The sky's looking rank and polluted, and then you have the opposite feeling. You're going, oh my God, this is awful. You're breathing like that. This is awful. This is awful. Then you see the mountain scene, and acid rain is eating the trees, and you're just getting pulled into these scenes. And then words come across the screen, start to come across the screen, and they just say, as each scene it gets uglier, you're killing your planet. Your planet is dying. You're killing your planet. Your planet is dying. You're killing your planet. Your planet is dying. Yeah. Message. So here's a message. And blacked out again. And so people were actually, as you can tell, received something from all of that.
All right, I have a question. I want to interject here. Obviously, you said there were, your guess was around 1,000 people. Am I correct?
Yep.
Okay.
That's my guess.
All right. Now, you have told this story a number of times. My question would be, of those 1,000 people, you would think that 1 or 2 or 10 would come forward and say, you know what? I was there. I was in that craft. I was in that group. I saw those pictures. In other words, what has become of these people?
This is what I know them to do by, of all the years of being pulled and seeing different things go on, is they take the memory away and just leave the message that they impart in your mind.
Oh.
And I surmise that to mean that because, we're all alike when it comes to something like that. We're going to ask a lot of questions. Where are you from? Why are you here? What are you doing? Why is this? Why is that? And why are you this? And why are you that? And why are you this? And so my best guess, because they're not hurting any of these people, is that they're giving them a message. And
okay, so you think that their memories were wiped out, and all they were left with was a sense of environmentalism, and they were creating mass environmentalists.
Well, I think that had a lot to do with it. Now that, the abduction phenomenon has been going on now for over, 20 years or more, 30 years, maybe even longer than that. Most of these memories have to be pulled out. People have partial memories, a little better than partial memories. Hypnotic regression brings out some memories in people. Sure. And so, I think don't look at the messenger, just listen to the message. And I think that's basically what that's saying.
All right, hold on, Jim. Hold on. We're going to do this break. It's very difficult doing this with such a great delay between here and Australia. And yes, thanks for the suggestion. We already talked about Skype. His internet is not so good, so we decided not to try it. But keep trying with Jim. We will. Anybody out there remember any of this? Any of you? I bet there are some. Again, we're going back to Jim Sparks, and you know what? It kind of makes sense to me. In other words, as these folks were subjected to what our planet looked like in pristine condition, and then what we are turning it into, I guess it would turn anybody into an environmentalist. And then if you erase the memories of the abduction, what they would be left with would be, I don't know, good for the planet, right? And if we really are headed on that kind of a course, and we are destroying our planet, I'm not immune to that concept. We may well be destroying our planet. Then doing what they're doing would make sense, and they wouldn't remember. Okay, Jim, you're back on the air again.
Yep. So, with that being said, I have come to believe that there are many, many mass abductions, and it could be considered maybe tens of thousands. Some people estimate millions, some people estimate more. And, in fact, right after that happened, there's sort of an anecdote that's kind of funny. A funny thing happened. which was after we all got the message. Again, we black out. And when I came to in a room that was reminded me of a locker room of sorts, because it was just my group of people, or the group of people that I had led into through the corridor for this message, and they were. Again, they could move around, but they were traumatized, and they were frightened, they were scared, and it was like, sort of like what you were just saying. It makes sense that they might take that away so they can get the message, but they were still, they were disoriented, they didn't know where they were. And again, I was asked, to calm a few of them, and, which I did. But the antidote is there was a telepathic sort of a PA message that everybody got at the same time, which was, you can't leave, no one can leave until you find your exact clothes. And these people went from whoa to all of a sudden they jumped up on their feet and their clothes were flying all over the place. And you think they'd have them folded nice and neat for them. And, then I found myself back home. And, so there were a lot of things that, again, this is something that's been going on, to now. That led me to feel better about what they are and what they do, even though they're strange. They're just strange to us. And so there was a few more events that they opened up to me that just made me a happier person with them. And then I realized that I'm one of the few people that can actually keep the memory. And I'm finding out they're not, doing horrible things. They're teaching us something. I'm not sure what the alphabet thing was, but it was pretty cool to, get 2 hours worth or an hour's worth or a half hour's worth of information in less than a second and know the whole thing. Yes. So maybe that's something for us to look forward to. And I always complained. I said, how come you people just can't, there was a sequence of events that were pretty neat to bring me where I am today and feel better about it and talk about it. But, I used to complain, on board, why can't you just be normal? Why can't you just land somewhere and say hi, have a little social, they had no social, be a little social with it. And so there was, a couple of things that took place that, were granted to me. And one of which was, which led up to, well, anyway, it's going to lead up to some other stuff. One of which was my folks at the time lived in Miami, and I was staying over in the west coast of Florida, Fort Myers Beach to be exact at that time. And I had went over to visit my parents, and I went into my bedroom as a boy, before I left home, to take a nap. And, I went into the bedroom, and as soon as I laid my head on the bed, I was I was on my side, sort of almost on my belly kind of thing, to take a nap. As soon as I hit the bed, it was this super loud sound, like a lightning strike, that was so incredibly loud in my head, it was just ear-splitting. And then I found myself elevated above my bed, and I was maybe 3-4 feet in the air, and my arms were waving, didn't know what was going on, and I turned and I looked at the doorway, and 3 of them were standing at the doorway. And the telepathic message said, "We're here." And bam, it dropped me back onto the bed and disappeared. They didn't even abduct me. All right, so there's a cynical sense of humor starting to develop. We're here.
Cynical? My God. Somebody did that to me while I was in bed asleep, and I woke up flailing in the air. I'd get somebody, I guarantee you. I'd get them.
Yeah, they didn't even let me go to sleep. I mean, that was the thing. You're ready to just lay down. I mean, I was still awake, and that was it, so they let me see the whole thing and completely conscious of all its glory. And so I learned over the years that they come in sequences. It's like cruises, and they come to do things. They're definitely concerned about the environment. There's no doubt about it. They're actually collecting seeds of every form that you can fathom, life forms in its seed shape, in a sense, in every form that you can fathom. And this is what they're doing on a regular basis. They want to preserve the planet, but if we're going to start screwing things up, they're going to start collecting things. And that's
okay, well, was it your impression that really was a demonstration of a sense of humor, or do you just think they wanted to test your heart?
I say with the sense of humor and their sense of humor too. We have social graces too, like because I asked them, why do you have to abduct me? Come over and say we're here, or hi, hello. When you want to join us or something, and that's all they had to say telepathically was we're here, and drop me back down in the bed safely. And then, this was a 3 or 4 month campaign that was going on, and I was just some neat stuff that started taking place. And so now it was a week or so later, and I'm driving along in my I had a little Toyota pickup at the time, and I had a couple of dogs that were my best friends. And one I kept one lived for 21 years, and the other one lived for 15 years. And I still grieve when I think about them from time to time. But you know how that is with animals.
Yes, I do.
And so anyway, they were in the bed of the truck, and I was going down the highway, and now I see what I thought, and here again, this is a science that they do, because they do these things under our noses completely. I don't care how good our technology is, all of the defensive detecting systems that we have, they can come in and out of our skies, and there's nothing we can see. And it's something I think I learned that they transmit things, so the mind or the brain and the machines can't pick things up, even the mind. And here's a perfect example. I'm driving down the highway, and the technology is so wondrous. I see in front of me, which it didn't make any sense at all, about maybe far less than a quarter of a mile. They have diamond-shaped ships. I call them diamond-shaped. It's like a pyramid on the top and a pyramid on the bottom. And I see one of these things, and where the bottom of it is, the top of it is going through the road and through the across the road onto the other side into a field. And so I know it's not paved in a big crater into the road, because everybody would know, but that's the way it came across. And I took my foot off the accelerator, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And then I saw it go into the sky, and then it was in front of me in my car. So I pushed down hard on the accelerator and tried to follow it. And the faster I went, the faster it kept going back. And the more I slowed down, slower it only wanted me to get so close. And then this is where I got the term the keepers. The keepers. And as it was hanging in the sky, I could see they transmitted these thoughts and pictures in my mind, and clearly it was there to see. The ship, it was in all its glory, and it was phenomenal. And and what I could see was a Judapeg of things. I could see the seeds they were collecting. I could see the plant life they were collecting. I could see the seedlings. I could see the trees, the little baby trees, the saplings, and all of this stuff. And then the message was, the keepers are here, and they refer to it as their people for whatever reason. The keepers are here to take their people home to a better place, not a different world. I expect them to say world. So that's where I got the name the Keepers, and that's what they refer themselves to. So now I got a name finally, because I'm saying, who are you, where are you from, what are you doing, why are you here? They wouldn't tell me for all these years. And here I am now, 6 years, 7 years, 8, 9, 10 years later. Now I got a couple of things. So we got social graces. We say we're here, and by the way, we're the Keepers. That's what they refer to themselves as.
All right, a real quick question, and that is, you said they were collecting plants and samples of this and that. Did they collect any living samples? I mean, we've had so many reports of cattle mutilations, that kind of thing. Were they doing any of that?
In that particular, what I got to see, and only what I got to see, I can only move on to, which all I could see was biological. I mean plant life. Primarily biotics, plant life.
All right, I don't want to lead you into saying anything. Your story is what it is, and so fine.
And so that was another. Then and another thing I used to complain about, and was the fact, how come other people see what I'm seeing? I'm the only one that gets to see this.
Well, based on what you've told me so far, this is me again, but based on what you've told me so far, Jim, it sounds to me as though they needed assistance from a human. and they went to the trouble to train you, but that is not what they were trying to do with others. Or if it is, you haven't talked about it yet. In other words, did you ever meet any others like yourself who were obviously supposed to be assistant?
Well, you know what? The person who doesn't want to come forward, and a lot of people that want to come forward, was another event, though I should say, that took my breath away. Because in that mass abduction, where there was over 1,000 people, there was a person that I assisted more than any of them there. And, you know, you can see their faces. And, you know, and anyway, I was closest to this guy because he was afraid. And I was constantly calming him in the earlier stages, before we went into the corridor, and even after, because again the details I wrote, but anyway, when we were in the antidote, where we were in this locker room thing, he was afraid more than anybody. But he was a guy, he was a normal guy, but he just anyway. I communicated with him the most, and anybody in that event. And I forgot about them. I forgot all about those people. It's nothing. Just, hey, I see one. And later on, I had attended a conference where this was before I came out as a lecturer and a speaker and so forth. And I was at a conference, and I was standing outside by myself to stretch my legs. And here comes this person with one of those huge cameras on his shoulder, like a media person.
Right.
And he's walking by, and I said to myself, "Oh my God, it's that guy! That guy!"
Okay, so finally there was somebody. Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah. And then to watch him walk by, he stops, and the camera's rocking back and forth. And I'm going to, the camera rocks back and forth if he picks a stop, because obviously he sees me, and it occurs to him, I must know this person. And he turns around and walks up to me, and he says, "Do I know you?" And guess what I said? No.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
You
You
imagine
said,
why?
no, I can't. I cannot imagine why. Why would you say no?
I didn't want to lead it to anything that can me saying that I let him, removed him in a way to say that was me. I wanted to see what he was going to say. You see what I mean? Because if I say, "Yeah, I know you. I saw you on board. I comforted you. We were in the big abduction and all this stuff like that." I wanted him to tell me something. And so that's when it got interesting, because he looks at me and says, "I know you, but I just can't place where it is. And I'm biting my tongue because I know this guy." So again, he doesn't want to come forward. So he does. I can tell you some things about him, but if you pick on me to get the information, I won't do it, because I have to respect what people want. And this is a person I had to do that. But he is a media person, but he isn't a famous media person. But he works around the media, and that's why he was there. And you can put it all together in your mind. But what more could be more perfect than somebody like that, I guess, to get an environmental message, right? And so as we were standing there, make a long story short, we decided to exchange phone numbers. And then I worked...
Can I ask one quick question?
Yeah.
Wasn't Pierce Morgan, was it?
If it was, I wouldn't tell you.
All right, go ahead, Jim, go ahead.
So anyway, so in our conversations and over time, I let him come forward with it, and his memory started coming back. And I think they just did that for me. So now I've got a person that I can say saw things with me, and he did go into detail. And again, he doesn't want to be out in the public, but the detail he gave me was the same thing. So now I got someone like that. And then it, then it led to another thing, where this one was interesting too. So you can see where I'm going, basically. That there's even though I'm feeling better about this, it's leading to other things that have deeper meanings.
Okay, well, I can certainly see that a media person probably wouldn't come forward, Jim, because that would be a career-ending move, almost certainly. But, oh, God, I'd like to talk to him.
Well, I mean, I have to honor his wishes, and so I have to stay there. and I have to. So I keep my word.
I
know
say
you do. I know you do. And, well, you know, there was the different events were taking place for another demonstration of even more powerful and more, well, anyway, there's another example I'd like to tell you that then led to this, led to something. But now I was walking down the beach, and people are they're funny about seeing things, and they're afraid anyway. I was walking down the beach, and I could hear a person jumping up and down, going Yahoo, 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 screaming. He was about maybe ankle deep in near the surf. It was a calm surf over there on the beach, and then there was a girl standing there too, and he's jumping up and down, Yahoo, Yahoo, and I'm looking at him, and then this telepathic voice says, look. And I looked over, and my head automatically turned where they wanted me to look, which was about 70, 80 degrees into the sky over the ocean. And there was this streak of a light that was a bright, bright light with a hue of blue that had no beginning and no end. Now, do you see light beams like that every day?
No.
No. Okay. So here's what looked like a light beam, and it was very, very high in the sky. And this guy's yelling up and down as if he knew it was something special. It was getting him excited. And then I knew that they were going to make some kind of appearance, somehow with witnesses, again, to make me feel better. I somehow knew that in my mind. They had to project it in my mind.
And with that, we're going to have to leave them for the night. Come back tomorrow for the conclusion of Art Bell and Jim Sparks with Alien Abductions and Encounters. Until then, like, share, and subscribe. Get us to the goal of 50,000 views, 1,000 subscribers. So Boxy and Nexters and YouTube will pay attention to us. CoinBase, Ibotta, and Gang.gg, you know the drill. Fill them out below, get your freebies. And until next time, like, share, and subscribe, be kind to one another, and release the Krakens as we continually march along here from day one. Have a great evening, enjoy your night's sleep, don't get abducted, and we'll see you tomorrow.